everyone, I'm Christine Gritman, and this is Let's Talk About Brand. I'm here every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, or whatever time it is where you are. Please do let me know. Also, while you're at it, let me know if you are joining us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Now, this show is normally live, and this show was going to be live, but there was a last-minute scheduling change, so technically I'm recording this Friday morning. However, if you do have questions, you're joining us live, you can still ask them in the comments. I'll be happy to check them out. I'm sure Christina will as well. Speaking of community comments, this Friday show is not it, you guys. Every single Tuesday, I have a chat on Twitter called #ChatAboutBrand. It's Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern, like keeping it consistent, and we talk about the same topic as the Friday show. So this Tuesday, we had a great conversation all about community, what it means to different people, what makes a community appealing, all of that. And we did that in preparation for today's conversation with the queen of community herself, Christina Garnett. A lot of people know Christina from one of two main things. One of them is the fact that she does run community for HubSpot. She created and maintains the Hub Fans program. She's done a whole bunch of initiatives there to basically encourage the love that people have for HubSpot and for that community, and to corral it together and just really, give it back as well. She's also done a bunch of community initiatives around HubSpot's signature Inbound conference, including the Inbound After Hours show and Inbound Correspondence. I was proud to be one of those last year. And a lot of people also know Christina outside of HubSpot for being such a wonderful member of the marketing Twitter community. A lot of people first encountered Christina through this incredible viral thread where she offered support to members of the marketing Twitter community who had under 1,000 followers, and she offered to help lift their voices, help them make connections. That's just what she does, you guys. That is how she rolls. She hosts a Twitter space called #Unverified. She's all about lifting other people up and helping them connect with like-minded people. And so we are going to talk about that today. Without any further ado, let me bring her on. Hello, Christina. Yay! Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Now, did I miss anything in there? I was like, she does so
That's a lot. No, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you.
All right, so let's dive in. I would love to hear from you how you got involved in community professionally, because I mean, it's something you just kind of did as a person. You weren't always a professional community manager or director. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Absolutely. So I've had this very interesting part of my life where community has always been like a tiny little part in the corner. One really great example was I was a career services advisor for a technical university, and they weren't really doing anything for their alumni other than placement. There really wasn't anything for them to network with. There was no real connections. So there was a real opportunity that was lost there. So one of the things I did was creating a LinkedIn alumni network for them in order to really kind of facilitate those journeys for them. They're able to connect if they're looking for jobs, if they know if someone that's hiring, they're able to really help each other, as well as what I was doing when I was helping place them, helping make sure that they were able to really continue to pursue their career. And then when I was at an art museum, I was the advancement coordinator and was doing a lot of the research to figure out who we should be inviting to the museum, who could be a really great donor for us, and also how could we fit within the more local community of Roanoke. The art museum itself it's exactly what you would expect an art museum to do. It has a very controversial design. It's not really in line with the stereotypical traditional Southern brick downtown, and so the sentiment around the art museum was actually quite negative. So I started taking over their Twitter and Facebook account and tried to figure out how can we really align ourselves with the community, not just making sure that our entire social channel is focused on us, but we were actually really doing an olive branch to the community, what we love about Roanoke, things like that. So that was another piece of like really trying to find out where we could really cement and strengthen this overall community. And then I've been a HubSpot fan for over 6 years before I was brought on. And so I've connected with a lot of customers and partners along the way. I've worked for some. I've been a consultant for a lot of HubSpot users. And so being able to now create that in this advocacy meets community forum is really worthwhile because I know what it's like to be a fan from the outside. And so I know how important it is for brands to really kind of give that perspective of we see you and we absolutely appreciate you. So I love that now being leading Hub fans, that I'm able to really make sure that they're taken care of. They're given opportunities, like you said, the inbound correspondence program, after our show. We have incredibly knowledgeable customers and we have incredibly knowledgeable partners. So my job is I get to find out where can I make them shine, and I get to pass them that mic. And so if you look at different parts of my career, there's a tiny little community segment, but now I really get to go like crazy with it, which is awesome.
Now, did you start the Hub Fans community, or was there something there already when you came on board?
It's a little bit of both. There was about 3 to 4 years ago, there was an advocacy program called HubStars, and it had a gamified opportunity. There were meetups at Inbound. And so when I was brought on, I was charged with how can we really have this like strong brand ambassador kind of feel. And so I created what is now the Hub Fans Council, which is our top advocates. They're joining conversations online and external communities. They're really being that voice of truth for us. Instead of the brand coming in and saying, hey, look how great we are and how we could solve your problem, you have actual users that are doing that for us. And then I was working with one of my colleagues who's going to be bringing back HubStars. And she was lucky enough to be able to move to another department in at HubSpot. And they asked if I wanted to take that on as well. And I was like, absolutely, let's go. And so brought on the gamified opportunity, but also added some community pieces. We have community groups, events, things like that, and then rebranded it into Hub Fans because that's what they are. When I go on Twitter and I go on social and I say, like, if you're a HubSpot fan, people raise their hand. If I say you're a HubSpot star, there's not necessarily that brand recognition of, oh, that's me. But they know it's really important to make sure that the way that we're talking about them is the way that they self-identify. So the answer is yes and no.
It's really interesting the way I mean, HubSpot has always really been like that. They've really encouraged fandom. And it's interesting because it is a business tool. It is a software as a service. So what do you think is about what HubSpot is doing that really encourages that sense of fandom for a business tool?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is that HubSpot is incredibly customer first. And you see that in our community, you see that in our customer success and customer service. You see that in the way that we're continuing to create reports and opportunities for people to learn, whether that be from HubSpot Academy or from something else. So because the North Star is customer first and what we solve for the customer, they know that they're the center of our flywheel. Like they know that they're the core of our universe. So when we're talking about fandom and we're talking about community, they know that it's not like we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for these people who are already on social talking about us. They're already going to events and talking about their experiences on HubSpot. So it's not even an issue of how can we make it do it more. It's how can we reward them for what they're already doing and then provide them more opportunities. How can we get them on the main stage? How can we make sure that they are just a little bit louder and that they feel appreciated and loved by us? So I think what you're seeing is this really genuine continued support of the customer and knowing that we want to be able to create a better product for them. We want to be able to help them. We have an ideas forum where our customers and partners can share like, hey, I love this, but I really wish that I could do this here. Or why isn't this feature available? And so our product managers are constantly listening to feedback, constantly figuring out what can make it a better experience. And so because that's at the root of everything that we do, it garners, it really fosters that trust and that brand love, because they know that we're going to continue to grow as long as we continue to take care of them. So we need to make sure that that voice of the customer is always with us.
Now, you have done a lot of different things, and HubSpot, even before you, has done a lot of different things to sort of garner that community feel. What are some of the things that you've seen people respond to the most in terms of feeling rewarded by it and coming on back to it over and over? And what are some things that kind of surprised you that didn't really catch on as well?
That's a great question. So one of the things I love is the Community Champions program. It's been there for a while. It's absolutely fantastic. And what it does is it gives an opportunity for our top community champions to be able to really solve those problems that other users are having. So it's not even just you go into the community, you ask questions and you leave. You're able to really go in there and help solve problems that people are having, and sharing examples of, hey, this is what happened when I hit this roadblock and this is how I solved it. So it's really coming from a place of how can we solve those and what does that look like? So I absolutely love the Community Champions program. We have Karsten Kohler, who just passed 3,000 accepted solutions. And so it's really showing his testament to the community that he's continually going back and making sure that he's helping people, that he's solving. And I think that that's at the real heart of what HubSpot does, is that we're known for having heart. But if you look at our customers and partners, they have the same heart. They really want to help others. They come from a really strong place. They really want to make sure that they are helping and coming from a place of, how can I make this better for you? So even though they may not even financially benefit, they still come from a place of, I want to make sure that this product works for people and that they're able to solve their problems. For something that doesn't necessarily work, I think that events are incredibly important. And I've done a lot of events with Hub fans, and some have been really great. And a lot of people want to come and show off and be there and learn. And others, it just wasn't that good. It wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. We have Zoom fatigue. We have webinar fatigue. And so a lot of us adapted from, hey, I have all these online events, I have all these in-person events, I have all these webinars. Now everything's going to live online. But what you've done is now you've created so much more online content that is not really possible to even be a part of, because either I don't have time, or it doesn't seem worthwhile enough for me, or I might just be done with webinars. So I think it's always really nice to know that it's never going to be successful every single time, and that you need to make sure that if there's something that you're unsure about, you need to go to the base. You need to go to the people who you want to attend and say, are you just like webinared out right now? Are you just tired? Are you just sick of being on camera and you're sick of being in Zoom meetings? And like, what do you need? Like, what would make you want to RSVP for something right now? What would make you want to be engaged? Because right now you're combating, like, no matter how good your event is, it's combating fatigue. It's combating someone else's calendar. It's also competing with everyone else that's at that same time. And also just the general malaise of, we've been doing this for years now. So I think that it's incredibly important that whenever you're struggling in community, or you're struggling with something and you're not getting the results that you expected, the hypothesis is wrong. First thing you need to do is you need to go to the source and really figure out, like, what is the actual source of truth? What's happening? Because it's easy to say, like, oh, well, this event sucks. It could have been that it was just like on the wrong day, or people are tired, or it didn't have enough value to make it worthwhile to people. Make sure that you go to them, because what you assume is obviously not necessarily going to be the facts.
That's so important. And of course, it changes all the time, especially the past couple of years.
Yep.
So I'm curious as to how involved, so obviously the community, being a community, a lot of it comes from the community, and a lot of it is about what the community is doing within itself. Sounds like your community at HubSpot incorporates, obviously there's elements of marketing. It sounds like there's a lot of elements of customer support. There's all sorts of elements. So what is the involvement of the different facets of the HubSpot brand in the community? How many kind of fingers are in that pie, as it were?
That's what's really lovely about it. The last thing that should be siloed is community, and the HubSpot community is not siloed. So you have our HubSpot Academy members that are in there. You have the professors that are in there. They've created study groups. So now we have that community element that's added to these certifications. So if you're taking a class and you really love something that you're learning, that you'd love to learn and maybe meet other people who've taken that course, now you can join the community, and now you can join study groups. So now you can connect and network with other people that take that same course. You also have the ideas forum, where you're having an opportunity for people to learn more about what they like, what they don't like. We have blogs where you're able to now be a part of creating content within the community. You don't have to be a HubSpot employee in order to write content for the community blog. You're able to submit it and say, hey, I think this would be really valuable and would help other people. You're able to be a part of Hugs, We have the customer and partner marketing team that run the Hugs, which is the HubSpot user groups. So now these are like micro communities that were originally based off of like where in the world they were located. And now we're, because of everything that's happened, are able to have more of a global view. So now you can learn. We have master classes where you're able to, where we have some partners that we've worked with who are now creating content to share their knowledge on things. We have, for example, one is a course coming up in March on how to be a HubSpot admin. So there's all these opportunities. So what you wind up having is, because, like I said before, because the customer is the center, what we're able to do is all come together with this viewpoint of where's the value and how can we work together and collaborate to make sure that that's working. And so the community team is absolutely amazing. I work with Jenny Swierda and Shanna Summers. We talk every day. Jenny does a lot of the operations and programming within the community, is such a pillar of what is so great about the HubSpot community. She truly loves the HubSpot users, customers, partners, and the internal HubSpotters themselves that really make this community so special. And then Shayna has done such an amazing job with Black at Inbound and making sure that those voices of diversity feel just as welcome and just as included, and that there's opportunities for them. We had an event yesterday with Arlen talking about her views on venture capitalism and what that looks like.
Arlen's amazing, by the way.
I love her. Yeah.
And when I think Black at Inbound, I think of Devin Bellamy, who now works at HubSpot, which is amazing. Yep. I love that. So as we discussed, your community involvement and your, affinity for community does not begin and end with the HubSpot community. You are a part of, obviously, the marketing Twitter community, as we mentioned, which is sort of a loosely defined community, though we do have now a Twitter community thanks to you. I'm sure you're part of other communities, possibly for softwares, possibly for fandoms, whatever. So I'd love to hear from you kind of what you've seen in other types of communities, either that have been good things that have informed your work, or that have been things where you're like, we kind of want to avoid that in this thing that we're creating.
Yeah, I think one great example is Community Club. It's by Comsor, and it's basically a community for community managers and community builders. And so what I really love about that, they have a mentorship program that I'm a part of where I can mentor other people that are just starting off in the community space. They also have a Slack channel, so you're able to connect with each other, get opportunities, be a part of articles, things like that. But what I really love is they've created a community for people who normally don't have their own. I find that the best community builders never found their quote unquote tribe. They really had to create their own. And those tend to be the best people to facilitate because they immediately see what's lacking because they've had that lacking for themselves. I've never had a community where I was able to feel this, or I never had a community where I was able to do a specific thing. So having that is really worthwhile. I think when it comes to gap opportunities for communities, the Web3 and NFT communities that I'm seeing are really struggling. And I see that because what you have is you have all the foundational community building of Web2, but then you have the hype of Web3. And community is incredible long game. You have to be able to know that you're slowly fostering. You're planting seeds every single day to be able to provide a better experience for tomorrow. So if you're going and you think that I'm just going to create a Discord channel and I'm going to invite people over and they're going to raise their hand when a drop is coming and I'm going to announce things to them and that's a community, that's what we're seeing a lot in Web3. And these groups that are coming together and they're not fostering that community. They're not fostering those connections. And what you see is you'll see Discord channels dying. You'll see these group chats that are really engaged when they think they're going to get something for free. And then when that's not happening, no one's in the chat. No one's talking to each other. And then you also have them relying on Discord bots. They really think it's going to be easy and they'll have a bot to welcome everybody. And that's going to completely make this work. And it's truly making this conscious decision that you're choosing to go through the motions, and it feels less and less human. It feels less and less value, and people will stay until they're very clear they can't get what they want, and then they leave.
Yeah. To that end, and I wasn't going to ask you this, but to that end of that's not a community, how do you define community?
It really depends. What I really like about community is that you're getting people together and there's a common thread. and it doesn't always have to be love. Like fandoms can be that, but there's also like there's hate groups that's technically a community. What
True.
you have is you have people who are coming together, there's a common thread, and they're engaged around specific things. A lot of it has to do with rituals. I think sports are a really great way to look at community.
Yeah.
Like people are going to have their own chants. They're going to have like their specials, like superstitious things they do if their team is losing. They're going to have specific colors. They're going to have specific things that they wear. If it's a jersey or if it's a scarf, if you're a soccer fan, they're going to have all these things that they go with that essentially becomes a part of this ritualism of how do I self-identify within this community. I'm clearly a fan because I know this. I'm clearly a fan because I do this. And so, and then how do they enter and exit that? So how do you become a community? How does someone join? Is there a specific process? Is there a way for them to enter because they knew somebody? And then knowing what is valuable to you. Because the other thing too is a lot of communities have this issue of, is scarcity the lever? We saw this with Clubhouse.
Yes.
They wanted to create this community, but it's behind a gate. And it's behind a gate that it's very hard to leap through. And so it very much comes to a point where, and I think that they saw this was I use a Google Pixel. I love my Pixel. I had an iPhone for a decade. But once I made that switch, it became immediately clear to me that Android users were not wanted in Clubhouse. And so by the time they announced it, I was like, oh, sweetie, I'm good.
Yep.
Like, I'm fine. Like, I accepted I wasn't wanted ages ago. I'm good.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a problem too that people need to think about is, what does that entry point look like? So for that tweet about marketing Twitter, that's what that is. It's a door. That tweet is a door. Here's a way to enter. Here's a way to be a part. Here's a way to introduce yourself. I'll retweet it, put it into the void, and now you get to mingle. And now it becomes what you make of it. But I think that for community, it really is, what does it look like to enter? What does it look like to be there? What does it look like to leave? And what is that experience throughout? What really happens that way?
I love that. To that end, on Tuesday during the Twitter chat, Kimber asks, how can we better advocate for ourselves in community and especially around community events? Because sometimes we get a little like, am I really part of this?
Yeah. I love the adage, closed mouths don't get fed. I think that you really need to be that voice. I think if you come from a place of reason and you're not coming from a place of anger, it'll be easier for someone to really listen to you. So I would really think about not only coming up with, and I see this in business too, don't come with a complaint, come with a solution. So instead of just saying like, hey, I don't feel included here, if you're able to say, I don't feel included because of this, and if this was done, ... it would make me and others feel included, represented, like we're wanted there. So I think that you have to advocate for yourself because people don't know what they don't know. And I can survey people all day long and I can ask people that I'm comfortable with and ask people, but there's still going to be this hesitancy to really tell like what your honest opinion is. And I've even had Hub fans who've said like, hey, can I say something about the community? It's not necessarily positive. And I was like, absolutely. I want to hear it because that's where I'm going to grow. That's where I'm going to be able to make sure that you have a better experience. And it may not be something I'm doing. It may be something else is doing, or it may be something that's just hasn't even been thought about. And by having that information, I'm able to make sure that things get done. So make sure that you're coming from a place of solution, not complaint. Be very clear about how it makes you feel and how it changes the experience. For me, I'm constantly thinking about what is the experience for our Hub fans? What does that look like? How do they feel? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel appreciated? Do they feel like if they're in an event that they have just as much opportunity to speak as somebody else? All those little things come together to really kind of make sure someone feels whether or not they're a part of it. And one event can make someone want to leave. Like they could have been in a group for years and one event is enough for them to be like, this isn't for me now. And so you need to make sure that you're constantly doing those checks to see. So be honest, and also if the community doesn't listen and they give you reasons, that's one thing. But if they come from a place of, nah, that's just not what we're going to do, that in itself is an answer.
Yeah. And I mean, as you pointed out, that can reflect poorly upon the whole brand. If someone goes to a Hub Fans event and they don't feel welcome,
yep,
that's not going to make them feel awesome about your brand either. So
Yep.
that's a tricky thing for sure. Okay, I know you have to go. So final question,
Yes.
which is Mike wants to know, how do you separate community management from family management? And I think what that really plays to is that when you do online things that involve nurturing relationships, it can be constant. Like even if you don't have a family, it can be constant. So how do you kind of draw those boundaries for yourself?
There are certain things that just don't happen. You have to make sure you set those boundaries. Something that I've done this year that has been incredibly helpful for me is I do time blocking. So there are certain times that, like, unless you're on fire, this time is dedicated to this task or this person. And so that's what I'm constantly looking at, is how can we do that? How can I make sure that I'm paying attention? One of the things too is like knowing when to put your phone down.
Yeah.
There's certain times when I'm with my family, like the phone is down and it does not matter. The notifications are off. If we're watching a movie, if we're having dinner, there's certain things where I don't want anyone to feel like I'm choosing my phone over them. And even if that's not my intent, that is how it can be perceived that way. And I never want someone to feel that way in their relationship to me, whether that be family, friends, anyone else. And so it's making sure, like, what are those micro behaviors that will set those boundaries? So time blocking, putting the phone down, making sure, like, here's where I draw the line. Here's what's important.
Community management begins at home.
It does. Yeah, it really does. Yeah. If you won't set aside time to take care of your family, it's going to be very hard for you to take care of the other people that you need to take care of in your community.
Jason Pinn just said, not a question, but I want to acknowledge that Christina G for being so real. I came for her marketing and community insights. I stay for her real life observations and interests. Blended perfectly. She's smart as hell, but never self-righteous. Easy to adore.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I'm a big nerd. So, like, if I'm not talking about HubSpot or marketing, I'm probably geeking out on something else.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, Christina. Where should people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, that Christina G. I'm that Christina G across most socials. And if you ever want to join the HubSpot community, we would love to have you. You can just go to community.hubspot.com.
And we'll also put that in the links. Thank you so much for being here, Christina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
To that end, Hub Fans is not the only awesome online community out there. I myself have been talking lately about the awesome community that I'm helping launch with AgoraPulse. It's not just for AgoraPulse users. It's actually not about the product. It's an online community for all social media professionals, all stripes. So I'm going to put the link to the wait list to join the Social Media Pulse community down below as well. We are launching next month. Speaking of things that are upcoming, I do this show every single week, as I mentioned. So next week, join us on Tuesday for my Twitter chat about brand, where we'll be talking about branding with your vibe. What does that even mean? Join us on Tuesday. Find out or tell us your take. And then the reason we're doing that is because next Friday's show guest is Brian Schulman. His whole thing, he has a very, very long regular live stream called Voice Your Vibe. And, is he dealing with here's how to do marketing? No, he's just having a good time. But the fact is, that is also a branding tool. So next week, we're talking all about branding with your vibe. So be sure to join us for that. In the meantime, thank you for joining us today. Bye.